The planet shimmered. Azure dunes stretched towards the horizon, kissed by twin suns. A crimson sky bled into the blue, painting the sand in hues of violet and orange. A stark, beautiful, and utterly alien world. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of ozone and spice. A low hum, the planet's song, vibrated through the ground. It was a world of contradictions, serene yet hostile, familiar yet utterly alien. This was Xylos, a planet on the very edge of the charted galaxy, shrouded in mystery and whispered rumors of lost civilizations. Captain Rhys Dalton adjusted his visor, squinting at the horizon. A seasoned explorer, hardened by countless interstellar journeys, even Rhys felt a tremor of unease. Xylos had a way of getting under your skin. His mission was simple: to survey the planet, collect data, and search for signs of the mythical Xyla civilization. A civilization said to have mastered time itself, only to vanish without a trace. His rover, a sturdy six-wheeled beast named Aurora, hummed behind him, ready to navigate the treacherous dunes. Alone but undeterred, Rhys ventured into the unknown. Days bled into weeks. Rhys charted canyons of glass, navigated fields of singing crystals, and braved sandstorms that roared like wounded beasts. Then, deep in a region marked by towering rock formations, he found it. A cave, its entrance half hidden by sand and time. Around it lay scattered remnants of buildings, their architecture unlike anything Rhys had ever seen. This was no natural formation. This was the work of the Xyla. And within that cave, Rhys discovered the impossible: his own body, lying perfectly preserved, clad in a futuristic version of his very own spacesuit. Terror, cold and sharp, gripped Rhys. He had never felt such an intense, paralyzing fear before. It was as if the very air around him had turned into a suffocating shroud, pressing down on him from all sides. His heart hammered against his ribs, each beat a desperate plea for escape. He could feel the blood rushing through his veins, a frantic river of life trying to break free from the confines of his body. The body, his body, lay still, its visor reflecting the crimson light like a pool of blood. It was a sight that should have been impossible, yet there it was, undeniable and horrifying. It was him, yet not him, a doppelganger, a twisted mirror image that seemed to mock his very existence. The sight sent shivers down his spine, a cold reminder of the fragility of his reality. Younger, unmarked by the passage of time. This version of himself was untouched by the hardships and scars that had come to define his life. It was a glimpse into a past that felt both distant and painfully close. He reached out, his gloved hand trembling, and touched the smooth surface of the visor. The coldness of the material seeped through his glove, a stark contrast to the warmth of his own skin. As he did, a voice, faint and distorted, whispered inside his helmet. "Don't trust." The echoes. The words were barely audible, yet they carried a weight that pressed down on his soul. His voice, seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was a haunting reminder of the unknown forces at play, forces that seemed to be toying with his very existence. It was a whisper from beyond time, a warning from his future self. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, overwhelming and inescapable. He was caught in a web of time, a prisoner of his own destiny. Panic threatened to consume him. His heart raced, pounding in his chest like a relentless drum. Every breath felt shallow, as if the very air around him was thickening, suffocating him. He could feel the cold sweat trickling down his back, a stark reminder of the gravity of his situation. His mind reeled, struggling to grasp the impossible. Thoughts collided in a chaotic whirlwind, each more bewildering than the last. How could this be happening? The very fabric of reality seemed to be unraveling before his eyes. He tried to focus, to find some semblance of logic in the madness, but it was like trying to catch smoke with his bare hands. Time travel, a concept relegated to science fiction, was now his reality. The sleek, futuristic cityscape around him was a testament to advancements he had only dreamed of. Yet, here he was, standing amidst it all, a living paradox. The time travel machine, with its intricate design and pulsating lights, stood as a beacon of both hope and dread. Was this some cruel trick of the Xyla technology? The advanced alien race had always been shrouded in mystery, their technology far surpassing anything humans could comprehend. He had heard tales of their capabilities, but experiencing it firsthand was an entirely different ordeal. The device in his hand felt both alien and familiar, a paradox in itself. As he examined the body further, a device on its wrist flickered to life, projecting a holographic image. The image was mesmerizing, a dance of light and color that seemed almost hypnotic. It depicted a swirling vortex of energy, a temporal anomaly that defied all known laws of physics. The implications were staggering. It showed a swirling vortex of energy, a temporal anomaly. The vortex seemed to pulse with a life of its own, drawing him in with its mesmerizing patterns. He could almost feel the energy radiating from it, a tangible force that seemed to warp the very air around him. The anomaly was both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of the unknown dangers that lay ahead. The Xylar were not just rumored to have mastered time, they had weaponized it. The message was clear. They had the power to manipulate the very fabric of reality, bending it to their will. The implications of such power were terrifying. What could they achieve with such technology? The thought sent a shiver down his spine. His future self had somehow traveled back in time, and in doing so, had created this temporal paradox. But why? What could have driven him to take such a drastic step? The questions swirled in his mind, each more perplexing than the last. He knew he had to find answers, to understand the reasons behind his future self's actions. The fate of reality itself might depend on it. Days turned into a desperate race against time. Guided by fragmented messages from his future self, Reese began to piece together a terrifying truth. The Xylar hadn't vanished. They were waiting. The temporal anomaly was not an accident. It was a trap, designed to lure him, to break him. But why? What made him, Reese Dalton, so important? The answer, he knew, lay at the heart of the Xylar civilization, a place his future self had warned him never to go. Following the cryptic instructions from his future self, Reese felt a mixture of confusion and determination. The message was brief but loaded with urgency, hinting at a dire consequence if he failed to act. It was a strange feeling, receiving guidance from a version of himself that had already lived through the events he was about to face. The holographic note flickered in his hand, its luminescent characters casting an eerie glow on his face. He knew he had to trust it, even if it meant venturing into the unknown. Reese found himself at the foot of a colossal structure, its sheer size dwarfing everything around it. The architecture was unlike anything he had ever seen, a blend of alien design and advanced technology. The structure seemed to pulse with a life of its own, as if it were aware of his presence. He couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and trepidation as he gazed up at the towering edifice. The monolith of pulsating energy and alien metal stood as a testament to the Xylar civilization's prowess. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a beacon of their technological advancements and a reminder of their enigmatic nature. The energy coursing through the structure seemed almost sentient, reacting to his every move. Reese could feel the weight of his mission pressing down on him, the enormity of what he had to do becoming ever clearer. This was it, the heart of the Xylar civilization, the core of their existence, the epicenter of their power. Reese knew that whatever he had to do, it had to be done here. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined, and the fate of not just himself, but potentially countless others, rested on his shoulders. The realization was both humbling and terrifying. His future self's message echoed in his helmet. Break the cycle. Save yourself. He understood now. The words were a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the midst of overwhelming uncertainty. They were a reminder that he was not alone, that a version of himself had already faced these challenges and found a way through. The message was clear, but the path was fraught with danger. His future self hadn't come back to save himself. The realization hit Reese like a tidal wave. This wasn't about self-preservation. It was about something much bigger. His future self had made the ultimate sacrifice, traveling back in time to ensure that Reese could break the cycle. It was a selfless act, one that spoke volumes about the character and courage of the man he would become. He had come back to save Reese, to break the cycle, to prevent whatever fate awaited him within that structure. The enormity of the task was daunting, but Reese felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was determined to honor the sacrifice of his future self, to ensure that the cycle was broken once and for all. The path ahead was uncertain, but his resolve was unwavering. To prevent whatever fate awaited him within that structure, Reese knew he had to act quickly. The alien architecture loomed before him, a silent guardian of the secrets it held. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the journey ahead. Every step he took was a step into the unknown, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay in wait. With a heavy heart, Reese set the Aurora to self-destruct, the explosion timed to coincide with his entry into the structure. It was a calculated risk, one that he hoped would give him the edge he needed. The countdown began, each second ticking away like a drumbeat in his mind. He knew there was no turning back now. The fate of his past self, and perhaps the entire universe, depended on his success. The explosion timed to coincide with his entry into the structure. As the countdown reached its final moments, Reese braced himself for the impact. The ground shook beneath his feet, and a blinding light filled the air. He pushed forward, driven by a sense of duty and the knowledge that this was his only chance. The explosion was both a distraction and a signal, marking the beginning of his final mission. It was a one-way ticket, a sacrifice to ensure his past self wouldn't follow. Reese knew that once he entered the structure, there would be no turning back. It was a journey into the unknown, a leap of faith that required every ounce of his courage and determination. He took one last look at the world he was leaving behind, a silent farewell to the life he had known, a sacrifice to ensure his past self wouldn't follow. Reese stepped into the structure, his heart heavy with the weight of his decision. He knew that his actions would ripple through time, altering the course of history. It was a daunting thought, but he was ready to face it. For the sake of his future self, for the sake of the universe, he would make the ultimate sacrifice. As the Aurora exploded behind him, Reese stepped into the heart of the Xylar structure. The world dissolved into a kaleidoscope of light and sound, time itself seeming to bend and twist around him. And then, silence. He stood before a being of pure energy, ancient and powerful, the embodiment of the Xylar civilization. It spoke, its voice resonating deep within his soul. "You have chosen wisely, Reese Dalton. You have broken the cycle. The echoes of time will forget your existence." Back on the surface, the azure dunes were silent, the crimson sky empty. The Aurora was gone, leaving only scorched sand and the faint scent of ozone. Of Reese Dalton there was no sign. He was a ghost, erased from time, his existence nothing more than an echo in eternity. But in the fabric of the universe something had changed. A paradox resolved, a sacrifice made. The explorer's legacy, though forgotten, lived on. The future, forever altered by the ghost of a choice made on a distant planet with crimson skies.